Welcome to The Queen's Lair, a lifestyle podcast. Get inspired by our latest tips and information about small business, entrepreneurship, natural hair, travel, food, and even relationships. Stay tuned for another great episode. I am your host, Renee Patrice. Welcome back to the Queen's Lair podcast, everyone. This is season 13, episode 1. Now, you guys know what we have done in the past is our first episode of the new season. We always talk to an inspirational person, entrepreneur, small business owner, whatever the case may be. But I have such a great young lady that we're talking to today. Her name is Diahni. She is a motivational and empowerment speaker. 20 years old, okay? 20 years old. And when I tell you this is so driven, we just had a little bit of a conversation before this recording that we're doing right now. And she is so driven and just has so many great things going on. And let me just introduce you to her. How are you, Diahni? Welcome to the Queen's Lair podcast.
I am great. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh. I really, going through your website and looking and then seeing, your age, and I'm like, wow, this woman is so driven. She has such a heart for business. You help in the community, all this stuff. Give us like a little rundown of how you got started doing what you're doing right now.
So I basically got started after my high school graduation in 2017. I was motivated to go to college. That was a dream for me. I was going to put all of my dreams and aspirations aside until I actually completed college and got my degree. Well, things didn't really go as planned. When I actually got down to Georgia, because I planned to go to Georgia State University, I didn't have the funds to complete the out-of-state tuition, which I was unfortunately an out-of-state student, even though both of my parents lived in Georgia at the time. I was devastated at first, honestly. I felt like, wow, like, what am I going to do now if I don't go to college? But at the same time, I also was like, I don't want to be a student in college that's struggling financially, knowing that I don't currently have a job. I don't have, any scholarships that could cover everything that I had going on for college. So I told myself I don't want to do that. So I took a semester off. Even though it made my family very, very upset with me, I knew that I had to do it for me. And honestly, it was the best decision I ever made, because in that semester that I took off, I was able to start my resume business, doing resumes for my peers and for adults, and also start my own dance classes at the basement in my home in New York for the young girls in the community who didn't have anything to do on Saturdays but also enjoyed dancing. So from there, I found myself in the entrepreneurial world, and honestly, I never looked back. And after that, I knew that I wanted to speak. I knew that I loved speaking to people, and I knew that I always was the one giving advice, or always the one that was in the storefront doing the speaking. So I took my speaking career seriously, and I hosted my first event called the Female Boss Brunch in March 2018 in Atlanta, Georgia, for the young women that are closer to my age in the community. I was 18 at the time, who had dreams and aspirations, but just didn't know where to start or how to start. And I felt like they would engage more with me because I was the same age as them. So I thought it was a great idea, and I did it, and it worked. It turned out great. I had about 20 girls come and show up, and from there, I just never looked back, and people wanted me to speak everywhere. And 2 years later, here I am, and I've spoken at almost over 20 events, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm in love with what I do.
That is just so amazing to me. I mean, folks who have been listening to the Queen's Lair for the past few years, and we've had, folks come on. We haven't had someone your age. We've had folks that are, they've been seasoned in business for years, and they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and all of that. But to have someone, 20 years old, and to have such wisdom to be able to know that, hey, folks my age, especially young ladies your age, who you want to see other people, your peers, doing great things and doing amazing things. It's one thing for an adult, someone who's over 21 and who's in the workforce and all that, to tell you, well, you should do it this way or you should do it that way. For you to have the, the wherewithal to say, you know what, I'm going to take a semester off and get some clarity on what it is that I really want to do. That is an amazing thing. It really is an amazing thing. Well, give us like a few bullet points of like the topics that you speak on, and, give us a little bit of rundown of that.
Okay, so before the summer of 2019, I was mainly covering topics of self-love, self-confidence, sisterhood as young women coming together, and I was also covering a lot of business and networking tips for entrepreneurs that I've taken for myself. Recently, I've kind of shifted what I really want to talk about. I actually took a nice little break from speaking to kind of like just get myself together and become more in tune with myself and kind of learn what am I really trying to accomplish when I'm speaking to these young women. So I decided to do, now self-love is the big topic. That's the main thing. But more of self-love, rather than just saying self-love because that's so broad. Now when I go into the new year, I want to talk about taking accountability for the decisions that we make as queens, as women. I want to talk about being able to understand that we have the power and we hold the decisions in our lives, and talking about just how we have been taught and brainwashed to believe that competition is the only way that we succeed as women. But we're bigger than that. So that's the new. I haven't launched that secret yet to anybody, but that's the new direction that I'm going in.
That's definitely right. That's right in line, because one thing about the Atlanta area, if people know the stats here, it's about 9 or 10 women to every man. So if you are a business person or whatever, you know that women entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs here is on 95,000. It's like really every weekend there's events and events and events. And collaboration is the name of the game. Collabs are how you do this. Giving people platforms. This is like, my little piece and corner of the world. Folks know I have my own business, but this, doing this podcast is such a love for me because it allows for me to talk to people like you and expose you to my audience. You know what I mean? Like, to let my audience know, like, look, these are the sort of folks that we have in our circle. I just think that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So, all right, you've given us the business side of things. So let's go a little bit lighter to the other side. Like, what are some of your hobbies? Like, what do you like to do in your non-work time?
What do I like to do in my non-work time? I enjoy listening to music sometimes. But I do that on a daily basis, whether I'm working or not. I really, really love to get engaged into a show on Netflix that I'm really in tune to, and just watch that for hours. Like, I just got finished watching She's Gotta Have It, a Spike Lee show that's on Netflix. I'm currently watching Dear White People.
I gotta stop right there with the She's Gotta Have It. I gotta stop because this is gonna be interesting for my listeners, because a lot of my listeners are kind of in like maybe late 20s, 30s, and 40s and stuff like that. Are you familiar with the original She's Gotta Have It from back in the day?
I actually watched it. I wasn't familiar at first, and then I actually got the chance to watch it because it was on Netflix. I'm not sure if it's still on there, but I actually got a chance to watch it because I was wondering, like the root, of course, of it and where it came from, and then I was really so engaged with the original version. I watched it and I was like, okay, cool. But the new show that premiered in the last year, I all in. It's my third time watching it back to back.
I absolutely love it, and I was in love with the original version because that came out. Lord, I don't even know how old when the original one came out. I don't remember what year it came out, but however old I was back then, probably a teenager maybe, because I think it came out in the 80s if I'm not mistaken. But I love the way they redid the characters, like, and how one of the kids, the child that Spike's character and the young lady had, that's actually their son now. Like, it was well done. I was like, okay, fine. I see what you're doing. So I definitely fell in love with the show. So I gotta agree. I love a good Netflix. I love a good Netflix show. What was like a defining moment for you? Like one of the most satisfying moments in your business?
One of the most satisfying moments in my business, I feel like I've had a couple of those, but I think that the most satisfying moment for me was after an event that I did last summer in Georgia. I spoke at a women's empowerment brunch and networking event where the goal was to teach the young women the specific ways to handle business. And after the event, one of the ladies came up to me. She's actually older than me. I believe she was in her 30s or 40s. She came up to me and she said, you know, your voice is everything. She said, you know, your voice has so much strength in it to where you really contacted everybody and engaged with everybody. And she said, you know, you inspired me. You made me realize that I can't have any fear in my heart when it comes to my dreams and when it comes to my goals. And I think I remember that. And I think I remember it because, one, she was older than me, and she was telling me that I inspired her, and I captured her, and I made her want to go for her dreams even more. And then I think it was just the fact that that morning, I was having the worst day of my life. All of my clothes weren't with me. I had nothing to wear. I barely had any money for the transportation to and from the event. And I honestly was talk myself out of going. I wasn't going to go at first. So I think that to know that I didn't allow my fears of not having the best outfit and not having them financials hold me back from going to an event that I was invited to speak and share my message, and then I get there and someone tells me that my message moved them, I think that right there it was satisfying for me because it was like, this is what you're here to do, and if you give up, you're crazy.
That's just amazing. I think people, you know, I think it's very impactful for people to hear from somebody your age. And I know that I keep mentioning age, but it really, it's the experiences. It's not just the number. It's the experiences. Yeah. Because for you to bring that type of experience and wisdom to these ladies who could probably, if somebody's in their 40s, they could probably be your mom, you know. So the fact that you can bring that type of inspiration, I think, is wonderful. Well, give me, and you know, let our listeners know what sort of projects and events do you have coming up that you can tell us about.
So, I've been keeping this a secret for actually a year. I actually have a book that I am releasing on my
team. We got exclusive. Okay, tell us about this. This is great.
Nobody knows about this book except my mom and the editor and the designer and the photographer. They're literally the only ones who know that I've been writing this book since last summer, 2018.
Wow.
It's called Perfectly Imperfect, and it's an inside look into my personal life, the things that I've dealt with relationships and just situations. Like I say it all the time, I know that I'm young, but right now I'm in a generation where the young women are dealing with more abuse, more toxic relationships and unhealthy situations than anybody else.
Yeah.
And because the guidance isn't there sometimes, and because we're just looking at social media as our teachers, we're putting in these situations. And I've been there. So I've never talked about my personal as much as I've talked about the business side of things. And one day, a girl who I know who is an entrepreneur just like me, she told me, she said, your followers want to know more about you. They want to connect with you more on a personal level. They want to know more about you. So I'm like, you know what? I got the key right here. I love to write. Let me write about my story. Let me tell you about the personal side. Aside of all the glory and all of the entrepreneurship goals, let me tell you about a little personal side of me where self-love and knowing my worth were essential to my life as a 15, 16, 17, 18, and even 19-year-old girl. So the book is coming out on my 21st birthday. I thought it'd be a great way to go into my 21st birthday because I feel like that's my transitioning from young woman to woman. And so that's definitely a project that's gonna be everything to me. And then I have a clothing line called the Female Boss Collection that I put out there. I posted about it on my social media, but I haven't sold anything yet because I just wanted to perfect the message and the mission. And the Female Boss Collection just basically stands for every woman, every age, every size, every background, who's a boss, with or without a business, who's a boss if she's a mom, who's a boss if she's a college student, who's a boss if she has her own business or dreams that she wants to aspire to. Because I believe that what you wear is an expression of yourself. And when you're wearing t-shirts and when you're wearing things that manifest positivity in your life and manifest self-love, you feel better about yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. This is even so much more than I thought it was going to be. It's just so inspiring to me. I'm all for the entrepreneurs, and my audience is, entrepreneurs from every walk of life, but especially Black and Latina female entrepreneurs are my main, demographic. So I just think that you are wonderful. Like you just exude a certain type of energy that is just so positive, and I think a lot of that is needed, and it's so fitting. This week is actually Mental Health Awareness Week, and there's been a lot of things about mental health and self-care and all of that. So your message just falls right in line with that. It's absolutely wonderful. Well, tell us where we can find you. Tell us your website. Where can we find you online? Give us that information, and so that people can follow you and learn more about you.
So I'm always on social media. I mean, I've taken a break from social media for a minute because, like I said, I'm in a big transition and working on a lot of different things. But if you always do want to find me, my social media is my first and last name: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Everything's the same at Diahni Sample, which is DIAHNISAMPLE at Diahni Sample, and that's literally the link to everything. And my website is www.diahnisample.com. So it's all my name, and you can go on any of those platforms, and you'll see every video. You'll see the events I've done, and just hopefully that you're engaged and you really see what I'm trying to push past and the purpose that I'm trying to push towards for the women of my generation.
Woo! That is, I'm inspired. I gotta agree with that woman from that event that you did. I feel very inspired. I definitely thank you so much for coming on the show, telling us, reaching out, to be a guest on the show. I just think that is just absolutely amazing. And when I saw your website, I said, oh yeah, I definitely have to be talking to this young lady. Thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us. And you guys, this is the Queen's Layer podcast. This is season 13, the new season, you guys. This is season 13, episode 1, and our guest was Diahni Sample. Please go find her on social media, and we will talk to you again soon. Thank you so much to all the listeners of the Queen's Layer podcast. If you find this podcast helpful, you feel like this podcast has helped you in your business life, helped you to decide if you're going to take that leap into entrepreneurship, or you just love the weekly encouragement, consider supporting us on Patreon. That's www.patreon.com. That's patreon.com/The Queen's Layer. Support us. We want to do amazing things with this podcast, but we can't do it without your help. Consider supporting us on patreon.com/The Queen's Layer. Thank you so much for your continued support.